everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are brand new, welcome. I'm super glad to have you here. My name is Jessica, also known as Chic Professor on Instagram, and I make videos on luxury goods, the pre-loved market, and workwear. So today's video is going to be showing you some of the ways that you can authenticate a Mulberry Classic Bayswater. So these are 3 versions of the Classic Bayswater. 2 are authentic and 1 is inauthentic. Hint, hint, this is the inauthentic one. So I will show you how I was able to figure that out. I bought this bag recently on eBay, and I knew I was going to have to fix it up. If you notice, it's missing the little lock, which I'll get to in a little bit, but I knew I was going to have to fix it up. I was planning to take it to the Mulberry store in New York City, but I am no longer going to be able to do that because it is not authentic, so I am sending it back. I thought before I send it back, I may as well show you how I was able to tell that this was not an authentic bag. So I will give you the details on the exterior and the interior. This was a very good fake and it was difficult to figure out, so I will point out also some of the things that are usually a little bit more obvious in the fake bags. However, the Bayswater is one of the most counterfeited bags in the world, so it is something to keep in mind and something to be cautious of if you are buying pre-loved. Let's go ahead and get started and show you the difference between these 3 bags. So I'll first show you the exteriors and then we will move to the interior. So this bag I bought on Tradesy. So all of these bags were bought pre-loved. Just because the Bayswater is often counterfeited doesn't mean that you can't find an authentic one on the pre-loved market and save a bunch of money. I bought this one on Tradesy. I then sent it in to Tradesy's authentication team, which you can do no matter at what point you buy something, at what price point. So I bought this one, I sent it in to Tradesy, and they authenticated it for me. I then bought this one on eBay from a large seller called Material World, who authenticates all of their items. So I know that both of these 2 are authentic. This one, however, I was able to tell before taking it into the store and asking them to repair it, which is another way you can make sure that something is authentic. No luxury store will repair something that is inauthentic, so they will always authenticate it first. Before I bought this one and then was planning on taking it into the store. However, I was able to tell on my own that it wasn't authentic, so it wasn't worth the trip. One thing that you'll be able to tell is on the postman's lock, which I will get into in a little bit more detail after. I just want to talk about the exterior in general. This is a large Bayswater and these 2 are both small Bayswaters, so you can see the size difference. But you may be able to tell just looking at this that the leather on this one is much more slouchy. It's just kind of condensed. It won't stand up on its own even though it is a little bit stuffed. So that's something to keep in mind, and actually was my first kind of way to tell that it wasn't real. As soon as I picked it up, I felt the leather and I went, something about this doesn't feel right. So this leather is much more thin. It is much more almost like plastic feeling, and it also is just kind of doesn't hold any shape. And part of that is because it is so thin. So these ones have a little bit more sturdiness to them. They are sort of a glazed finish. This one has the look of a glazed finish, but it doesn't have the feeling of a glazed finish. So there definitely is a difference in feel between these different bags. This is a pretty good fake, and it was hard to tell at first, and I was like, maybe is this just a much more worn bag than I would think, or is it actually something that is not real? The specs all line up. So what you want to look for when you're looking at a Bayswater, does it have the straps? Does the flap go down to the right amount? Is the detail on the postman's lock correct? And I'll show you that in more detail later. How is the stitching? There were some things about this bag that I was like, oh, that's an issue, that's something that's not real, and then figured out when I looked at my other 2 that actually that is something that's okay. Sometimes there are some stitching errors, sometimes there will be errors, and if there's an error in production, it will be sent to the outlet. So sometimes you can get a correct, authentic bag that does have an error or 2. So that's something to keep in mind. In the large Bayswater, there are stitching that goes up the handles. In the small Bayswaters, that doesn't exist. The stitching only is in this sort of rectangular shape. I have all of these set so that you can see a certain amount in the belts on the side. So this one had as many notches in the belt as any of the other ones did. If it was the correct shape, you would see that it is also the correct size. So if it was a little bit more sturdy, everything fit with the way the bag worked. The only thing on the exterior that really was an issue was, one, it doesn't have the clochette, it doesn't have the lock and key, so I couldn't authenticate it using the lock, which is one way that you can tell as well. It didn't have that, it didn't come with that, so that was a little bit of a red flag. But then the bottom of this bag looks a little bit different. So you can kind of see it's a smooth leather on the bottom, whereas these ones continue to have this pebbled leather sort of look all along the bottom, that grained leather. So that is one other way that I was able to tell. The feet on all of these look the same. They have the same amount of stitching. So all of that was good with this fake. It is a very good fake. It's almost a super fake, but it was something I was able to tell. So the biggest thing on the exterior was just the quality of the leather I can tell, and the base and the missing clochette. The next thing I want to show is the close-ups of the postman's lock as well as the base of the handle straps. So the first thing that I want to point out about the postman's lock is the shape of the mulberry tree itself. This is a very good fake, and you'll see when we compare it to the authentic that it is really well done. The leaves are nicely spaced out and nicely engraved. They're not sloppy, and the tree trunk is a triangle, something also to keep in mind. It should be this shape of a triangle if it is an authentic bag. Now, this plate is a little bit dirty. That does happen, and you can get postman lock repaired at any Mulberry store. If you have a receipt, it is free to replace a postman's lock if it gets scratched up or dirty like this. And if you don't have a receipt, it costs something around $60 to get that replaced. The other thing you want to keep in mind with this is that it has these flat head screws and not Phillips head screws. Generally, the front, even on a fake, will have the flat head. However, the back often has Phillips head instead of flathead, so that is something to look for if you have an inauthentic bag. Now moving on to the authentic Bayswater. So this one is a different color hardware, so that is something to keep in mind. Now the postman's lock is going to look different, and the tree symbol will look different as well because it's not this colored in base. That is something that depends on the color of the hardware, and I'll give you a quick glimpse of the other one as well. So the oxblood is the same color as the inauthentic, and it also has the darkened design around the postman's lock and the Bayswater tree. This one is going to be a little bit different. It also has the flathead screws on the front and on the back, so definitely something to keep in mind. This one also has the clochette, so you can see the detail on the back of this. There is a small mulberry tree. It's going to be a little bit difficult to see, but it looks like that in there, and then it also has the lock inside. Now, different years of different locks have some different details to them, but it also will have the mulberry symbol, and it will have the hole on the bottom. So definitely something to look into and to do a little bit more research depending on the year of your bag and the different kind of locks it could have. As you can see, this is the rectangular stitching, and it does not continue up the side just like in the inauthentic one. So that was not something that was a big enough deal to see that it was not authentic. And then you can see on this side the stitching does go all the way up the handles. Next, I will show you the interiors of the bag. So this dark brown is the authentic and this black is the inauthentic. Look at how the structure of the bags, how much this one just kind of flops around compared to this one. That's what I was talking about the leather. The other thing I want to show is the thickness of the leather. This leather is much thicker and much more sturdy. Look at how easily this one moves. This one is much stiffer and harder to move. This one does not stay straight on its own, whereas this one does. So this back little pocket, that might seem like something that is not authentic, however it is. They all have this little strange place where it's not fully sewn together on the back of the pocket. The leather in this one is much thinner than the leather in this one. If you can almost see, it almost seems like it's two pieces of leather sewn together for this one, whereas this one is really just one piece of leather. It is much thinner in that area. Next thing I want to show you is the hardware on the zippers. So the interior zipper is also in very good shape in this bag. Not something that was easy to figure out that it wasn't authentic. So the first thing I want to point out about the zipper is that when you are just looking at the bag, the zipper kind of falls into the slip pocket. In the authentic version, there is a nice space between the zipper pull and the pocket so that it doesn't get stuck as you are pulling it out. That is something to keep in mind. However, the shape of this zipper is really quite well done. It has the rounded edges, which it should have. It has the nice shape up here, and it also has the nice engraving detail. If you look on the back of the zipper, which is a little bit difficult to show, it is a Riri zipper. It should always be either a Riri, R-I-R-I, or it should have a mulberry tree on the back of the zipper. The mulberry is engraved really nicely on here, and it also has a nice engraving on this symbol here. So this fob is nicely done. It has a code on the back, and this is not one of the code that is known as being a fake code. There are a few that are used in a lot of different fake items, so you will want to Google the code and see if it does come up as one of the ones that is most often used as a fake. This was not one of these because this is a better fake, but that is something to keep in mind, and that is the font that is on the back of that. I'll now show you a really quick glimpse of the zipper and the fob on the Authentic bags. So on my dark brown bag, you can see that the fob and the slip pocket have a little bit of space in between. Also, the shape on here is also nicely done, and it is also engraved. So you can see that is the shape on the Authentic bag. And then if you look at the engraving here, you can also see the detail on the embossed leather as well as on the fob. This is what the Authentic serial code looks like for this particular bag. And now I will show you on the other hardware so you can see the different color as well. Now my oxblood one is from a different era, so it is going to have a different shaped zipper. This is also an Authentic zipper, but it is obviously quite different from the other one, which is why I wanted to show it to you. You can see the mulberry tree symbol right there, and on the other side as well. The fob, now this bag has been dyed, so it's a little bit harder to see the embossed leather, but you can see the fob quite well. And then this is what the font looks like on the back of this one, and you can see some of the dye got on this bag as it went from a dark brown to an oxblood color. So the next thing I want to show you is the interior of the Inauthentic bag. So not only is this quite loose inside, which obviously does not look nice and is not in good shape, but I don't know if you can see, the stitching is not straight. It's kind of wavy down there, and then on this part as well, it's really wavy. It's not straight, which is definitely something that is different than the interior of the Authentic bag, which I'll show you now. So this bag is quite dirty inside. However, you can see that that's a nice straight line, nice straight stitching. Now it has been used quite a bit, and so some of the stitching is loose. I don't know if it was always like that or if that's just something from the different contents of my bags rubbing against the stitching that have made them loose in those corners, but it is still a very nice straight stitching. So even if it has a little bit of loose stitching and it is a pre-loved bag, that's probably okay, but it is still nice and straight stitching, so that's definitely something to look for and to keep in mind. So the next thing I want to point out is that the Authentic bag has this Made in England tag in the corner. It's right by the pocket, it's black. It doesn't have to be made in England. Mulberry has recently outsourced some of the making of their bags to Turkey and China, so if it doesn't say made in England, but it says made in Turkey or made in China, that does not mean that it's not authentic, but definitely something that you will want to pay attention to. It should have this tag. I also want to point out right here the Mulberry Lettering. This is the Authentic bag. My Inauthentic bag has very good hardware, so it looks almost the same, the engraving and the font, but this is what an Authentic font looks like. The other thing I want to show about the interior is behind the pocket. So when someone is making a fake, they want to do it as cheaply as possible, and they're really not interested in putting in the precision work and detail that's necessary to making a nice looking bag. This one is nice and straightly stitched, like I said before. However, it does have some stitching issues. So right here, and even a little bit right here, you can see that there's extra stitching that has been gathered there. I thought immediately when I saw the behind the pocket in my other bag that was the inauthentic like telltale sign that there was stitching issues. However, this one also has some issues, as does the oxblood color. So that's something to keep in mind, but it is nice and straight stitching and there are no glue marks. So now I will show you the inauthentic bag. So the inauthentic bag does not have the tag where it is supposed to be. the tag should be right by this pocket and hanging right here. However, it is not there on this bag. Instead, it's in this corner over here, and it says MW, which I don't know what that means, and it also says Made in Turkey. However, the Made in Turkey is definitely a different font than the Made in England. It's also not white as it is in the other bag, and it's just kind of sloppily done, and it's not in the place where it is supposed to be. Sometimes you will have a bag, if it is a fabric lined bag, sometimes they are missing the tag because the tag is accidentally sewn on the other side of the lining, so it can't be shown. However, that is one of those bags that would be sent right to the outlet. So this one, the tag is just in the wrong place. It has the Made in Turkey, it has this MW on the back, but the font and everything about that tag is incorrect. You can even see that it looks like the stitching where the tag is just really poorly done. The other thing I want to point out is the font. So here's what the font looks like, and this one's a little dirty, so the other side, here's what the font looks like on this tab. Not bad, but definitely not the best. It doesn't look exactly the same as the other one, though it is quite close. So that is something to keep in mind. And then now for the big telltale sign, how I definitely knew that this was not an authentic bag. Look at those glue marks. So not only are the glue marks obviously quite in your face, but check out the stitching next to that one. Look how sloppily done that is. They just like glued the extra loose threads down instead of actually sewing that down, and it's all wavy in here on the stitching, as you can see. So definitely not the best stitching job on this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be sending this one back to the eBay seller tomorrow, so I won't be able to answer questions specifically about this bag. However, I'm happy to answer questions about either of these two or about the Bayswater in general. Remember, this brown one is for sale, so if you are interested, please contact me about that or check out my Poshmark, eBay, and Tradesy accounts, which will all be linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see other videos. Thanks and have a wonderful day. Bye!